Hi, and welcome to another video by Get It Done Home Repairs. Today's project, we're going to be removing this backsplash from this wall and hopefully not damaging the drywall behind it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the drywall is going to be destroyed, but we're going to try to minimize it. We'll see how it actually goes before we decide to get in there and cut the entire piece of drywall out with the tiles. All right, so what we're going to do first before we do anything, we're going to make sure we have some kind of glasses to cover your eyes, because just in case any chips come out of it, you won't get any kind of a problem with your eyes. We're going to use something like this. We're going to use a pry bar to get behind it and pry out the tiles. We're going to use some scrapers possibly to try to get back behind it. We're going to need a screwdriver to remove the switch plates right here and down at the other side as well. We're also going to need a hammer to get in there and tap our chisel and pry bar in there, a piece of wood to put behind it, and I'll explain why we're using this wood as well. We may try getting behind the tile too with a reciprocating saw like this, just to get in there and see if we can minimize the damage to the drywall and not have to change the sheetrock. All right, but we're going to, God bless you. We're going to see how it goes as we proceed. Now, the piece of wood is here for a reason. When you get up on here and you try to pry on this tile here, as you can see, there's a stud there, a stud there. There's no stud behind this wall here. If we were to get in here with a hammer, get behind it and pry on it, we're going to knock a hole in this wall here and we'll have more damage to repair. So when you're in here prying with your hammer, such as this, or if you're in here with your pry bar in here behind the tile, you use that behind you and it'll minimize the amount of damage to the drywall above the area that we're working with. All right, as a precaution too, you want to put down something to cover your countertops, just in case you're using your you're just replacing the backsplash and you do not want to damage your countertop or your stovetop unit itself. All right, so enough said, let's get in there. Let's start right here and let's see what's going to happen. Now these are quite simple, of course. You just take the screws out. You probably want to get a piece of tape and tape these to the back of the plate itself, just so you don't misplace them and lose them. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to tape them in there. Let's take our other switch plate off. Okay, let me just point out one more thing to you here as well. Okay, so now we have our switch plate off. Of course, you can see that, but you see here how the electrical switch is sitting over the top of the tile. If you're going to be working in this area, make sure you go in and turn your circuit breaker off so that you have no electricity in here and you don't run the possibility of getting a shock. All right, so enough of that. Let's get up here and let's try taking these tiles off and we'll see how it goes. We're going to just try getting in here in the back of it with a hammer and a small scraper. Okay, so we can't get back in there like that. So then we have to have a starting point to get in here. So we're going to hit this tile right here and we're going to break them and we're going to see how they come off. So here we go. As you can see already, it looks like it is going to take the paper off, but we'll try it and we'll see. All right, so as you can see, it is going to take the paper off of everything. So at this point, we are going to wind up coming in here with our saw, and we're going to cut across this area right here. And we're going to probably change all of the drywall underneath here. But let's try this tile here and we'll see what happens on this one. Okay, see? You've taken all the drywall off with it. So chances are we're not going to be able to do anything on here except to replace the drywall itself. All right, so let's break a couple of these up so we can get in here with our saw and actually make some cuts. Okay, next we take our square just to put it up here. So we get a fairly straight line. It does not have to be perfect because as we know, we're going to do some drywall work anyway. And we're just going to cut it along here, all the way back to the cabinet itself. We're not going to touch the cabinet because we don't want to damage it, but we will score the sheetrock. All right, once we have our line, we're just going to continue cutting until it goes down through the sheetrock to the inside part of the wall. We're going to break a few more tiles away here so we can get in here, but we're not going to be careful because we know we're going to replace it. And the reason we're breaking this tile up is because we don't want to do any damage underneath here to the drywall itself, because we're not going to go behind the cabinet. So we'll get this out first. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to cut it down all the way down to here and then underneath the cabinet itself so that we have a good piece. We're going to have to break this tile up too so we can get a nice cut underneath there. Now remember, when you're cutting in the drywall with this saw, you don't want to cut too deep because remember, you have studs behind the wall and you also have electrical wiring. So you're only going to cut about a ½ inch into the drywall itself. Okay, so now we cut across the bottom right here. Next we're going to cut down here with the saw and then we'll take it out. Okay, so now we have it all cut. Let's grab it and give it a pull. Ready? And there we go. Oh, okay. Somebody buried a box back inside the wall here. And I'm assuming that that's when they moved it over to this point right here. So,
another project.
Yeah, another project. You can't bury your box inside the wall. It's got to be an exposed box, but we'll have to see about rewiring it just to go into this existing outlet right here. All right, so next thing we're going to do now is we're going to come underneath here. We're going to break these tiles on the bottom right here so we can cut a straight line across here so we have some place to install the new piece of drywall that we're going to put on. All right, so let me get this all down and then we'll come back. After looking in here, I can see that these wires now are dead wires. They've been removed someplace else. They've been disconnected, so I'm assuming that it was done correctly. We're going to come in here with our tester just to make sure that these wires are dead, and then we're just going to take that box out because there's no reason these wires are actually dead. All right, so let's get this down, and we'll come back once we have it all down. Okay, so as you can see, we have the drywall off, we have the tiles off. We did have to break it underneath the cabinet, chip out each one of the tiles because we needed to get back behind there with this saw here, this reciprocating saw. If you're doing any kind of work around the house, this comes in extremely handy. This one is made by DeWalt. As you know, I use a lot of DeWalt type products and it's been very dependable for me. But it saves you a lot of headaches. We had to cut down on the bottom where the drywall is touching into the countertop itself, and we were able to get under it and score the drywall, cut through it in order to remove it from the wall without destroying where the new drywall is going to touch into. So we're going to run to the big box store, pick up a piece of drywall and put it on here. Now before you pick up the drywall, measure the thickness of the wall that's there now. Some of them are 3/8, some are ½ inch, some could even be 5/8. So make sure you get the correct size drywall before you put it up. And the way you're going to do it, of course, you just grab your measuring tape, measure how thick the drywall is. This one here I think is it's 3/8 if I'm not mistaken, this one here, so that's what we're going to get. And then we'll put the drywall in and we'll tape it and spackle it. And it doesn't have to be perfect because we are going to be putting in a tile backsplash on here, so it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to have the finish coat over the top of it. All right, so let's clean up some of this mess right here, take a run to the big box store, and then we'll continue. Now, as you remember, there was an outlet right over here that had a wire just hanging in it. There was also, as we opened it up, we found out there was another previous outlet over here that had wires just hanging in it also. As it turns out, they were from the previous kitchen that was in here. They were disconnected already, so we removed the boxes, took the wiring out that was through here. There's no reason to leave the wiring in there, no reason to have the box in there, so we took those out, threw them away. The other wire was coming into this box over here. It was already disconnected. We just pulled it out and got rid of it, so that eliminated the box that was there. All right, so let's continue. Okay, so as you can see, we now have our piece of drywall in place. We did our calculations. We measured from the side over to the center of where the electrical box is, and then we cut out the box itself. We can fine tune it once we have it screwed back into the wall itself to make it exactly the size that we want it. We did the exact same thing on this side over here. we actually cut the box out there as well. And again, we'll fine tune that once we have this screwed back onto the wall where it belongs. This piece here we're going to cut in a minute. We'll put that back up as well. I just want to point this out to you. Make sure that your power supply is off because you're touching these and you don't want to get a shock. All right, so now after we have our drywall in place, we're going to take some drywall screws, and you're probably going to use something 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches, something like that, to hold it in, because the drywall itself is 1/2 inch, and we have about 1 inch of it going into the stud itself. Now with these here, you can use a regular drill. You don't need to have any special tool to put the drywall screws in, and you basically just hold it in place, know where your stud is located, and you come up in here like this and you just drive this through. And you want to dimple it in just a little bit. You want to dimple it in. You don't want to have the screw sticking out past the drywall. And of course, we're actually going to put tape up here once we put that other piece in. So this will be underneath the tape joint, this screw here. So now we're going to come down, and we know where our studs are located. And we're going to come in here, and we're going to put a screw. Just like that. And then we'll continue all the way down the line here. We're going to put a screw here. We're going to put a screw down on the bottom. You don't need a lot of screws in here. You can put either 2 or you can put 3 screws, whatever you prefer. I'm probably going to use 3 because I do everything to the best I can. All right, so let's screw this in place. We'll cut this sheet right here and we'll put that in, and I'm going to show you how to spackle it and finish this job off. Okay, so now after we have the drywall up, we have the screws all screwed in place, we have our filler piece up on here. The next thing is we're going to come in here and we're going to tape this, we're going to spackle it and tape it so that way the joints are finished. Now, you know there's going to be a microwave up here and there's going to be tiling down here, so these joints here do not have to be perfect. If it's going to be something that's going to be exposed, then you'll need to finish it so that it's perfectly smooth, which I will attach another video of how to finish off drywall for painting in the future. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here with our all-purpose spackle, and we're going to put it in this joint all along here, all of the joints. We're going to put drywall spackle on. Then we're going to take our tape, and we're going to put the tape into the spackle that's on here, and it'll actually dry in there, and that way if there's any kind of flexing, it's not going to crack in there. It'll be a perfect joint. All right, so let's get in there and let's do that. All right, after you have a coat of spackle on here, then you grab your tape, just stretch it across. You see how long you're going to need it. We'll cut it to length, and then that just gets stuck right on to the joint where everything is going to go now. And you just push it into it. Just make sure your membrane is embedded into the drywall spackle that you just put on. All right, and that's it. We're going to continue. We're going to do it up on the rest here. We're going to do it underneath the cabinet, down on the bottom right there. We'll do it on these joints here, and then this will be finished. But now let me show you, when you have just a screw in there, what you can do. You don't need to make a big deal of that. You just go like this, and that's all. and that's it. So let me finish the rest of this and I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like once we get the tape on and the rest of the spackle in place. Alright, so now that we have our drywall up, we put our tape on, we put the spackle over the top of it, and we covered all of the screw holes with the spackling all-purpose joint compound. If you were going to finish the wall, like I said, you will need to come in here and sand it lightly and put a second coat on here, but this wall is going to be tiled all the way up. There's going to be a microwave there, so I'm not going to have to finish this wall, so that's absolutely perfect. But that's it. We're going to put our switch plate covers back on because we have a project to do on the other side of the room now, and then we'll come back to this once we're ready to tile it. I'll make another video and you can see how to put the tile up. All right, as always, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.